So some of you have wondered, how do I know when my onions are ready to pick? Well, if they look like that, they're ready to pick, but they're not necessarily done growing. Now, I'm growing two different varieties of onion here, and this variety of onion over here, you can see these are Texas Giants, and they grow giant. They're not done growing yet. Now, some of the tops are bent over here, so that's just mostly because of the wind. Whereas when I get over here, my DP Sweets, you can see that the plants are bent over, but they're also starting to die a little bit. And what that means is that the plant is probably done, the bulb is probably done developing as much as it can. When you get to something like this over here, where they start to produce flowers, these plants were never really designed to produce bulbs. I planted these just for green onions. You can see how thick they are. You would never ever plant onions that thick. But when they start producing flowers, that's it. You need to actually pick them. You can't, some people seem to say you can cut the flower off and it'll keep growing. That's not true. That's not going to happen. Now, these flowered really quickly just simply because of different characteristics of the soil, whatever. But again, I just planted these because I had extra onions and I just wanted to have access to green onions. These stalks are great when you put them in soups and stir fries and things. There's a little bit of a root down there, but not really enough. It's more along the lines of like a shallot, or not a shallot, excuse me, like a like a green onion. So you can get an idea. Now, in the zone 8B South, we plant our onions in October. And in the early stages of onion growth, you want to really go heavy on the nitrogen because the nitrogen is going to help with the green development of the plants. Now, if you look at this plant right here, this plant has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 leaves. What that means is that that onion is going to have 9 layers. You know that onions have layers. Well, when you are trying to grow onions, you want to make sure that you're giving lots of nitrogen because the more stems that grow early on, then the more layers and the bigger the onion is going to be. Now, in this particular case, I don't know what's going on with this onion, but sometimes they just do well. This one has got water damage. It's rotten in the soil. It's rotten. So you want to hit it heavy with the nitrogen at first. And so you want to use a heavy nitrogen fertilizer. You can use organic fertilizer, or you can use something like ammonium sulfate, which a lot of the growers use. But then once the bulb starts forming, you want to back off because you don't want all of the energy to go into producing the green stuff. Now you want the energy to switch. So now you're going to use a more balanced fertilizer. You're going to up it, lower it down on the nitrogen, increase it a little bit on the phosphorus and potassium, and then you're just going to try to fertilize them with a nice, balanced, organic liquid fertilizer, I would say, every 2 weeks. So mine are due. I'm not gonna fertilize these again because these are pretty much saying that they're done growing. Maybe the ones on the end. These, I'm gonna hit these again. I'm gonna hit them with a 555 or a 355 liquid fertilizer, just to give them that final boost. Some of them just, last night we had this rain and it was so just, I mean, they just love it. They love it. So, onions, you kind of baby them through the first stages of it, and they need to have a lot of water. You got to water them consistently. I've had years where my onions just were stinkers. I just didn't do the right thing. I didn't prep the soil right. This year, obviously, look, I mean, if you look at this one here, look at that. That's huge. And that's a beautiful size onion. I actually don't like them growing too large. They're great if you want to do onion rings, but I don't want to grow them so large that I have to cut them and then put it in the refrigerator and then, use it again, because I don't necessarily use onions every single night. All right. So if you're going to grow onions in 8B South, you got to plant them in October. If you're going to do, and I didn't even plant seeds. I started them 8 weeks ahead of time, August, I think. And when I planted them, I planted onion sets, they're called. They're not bulbs, they're sets. They're actually the full plant that you plant. They're 6 or 7 weeks old. So they're just miniature onions. And you plant them like that. Now you can go to the store and you can buy little bulblets that are, the size of a grape. I'm going to tell you that those are just never going to grow to a big size onion. They've already pretty much done their onion thing. They're going to grow a little bit, and they're going to grow, you know, if you want just some onions and an easy way to do it to get the size of a golf ball or maybe a little bit bigger, you can plant those, but that's really not the best way to plant onions. Now, I started some of my own seed, but I also bought some sets from a company online, and I planted their sets as well. Now, the ones that I started from seed are a different variety, but again, if you want to just have fun with onions, Texas Supergiant is, you know, they are a sweet tasting onion, kind of along the lines of like a Vidalia for those of you who are from Georgia. They're not as sweet as a Vidalia, in my opinion, maybe just because I'm not growing them in Vidalia. Vidalia really does have something in the soil that makes their onions taste like Vidalia onions. A Vidalia onion is basically a yellow Granax, which is what these are. These are yellow Granax, but there's different varieties that they grow there. They call them Vidalia onions because they grow them in Vidalia, but they're really just different varieties of yellow Granax. This is also a yellow Granax, this DP Sweet. They didn't grow as big, but that's probably my fault. I probably did some things here. I didn't fertilize this well enough, and you can see clearly that I overwatered the ones on the edges because they're just, yeah, they're rotten. So yeah, I overwatered those. So my fault. Nothing against DP Sweet. I didn't do them right. So onions are fun. Obviously, I grew a lot, and I hope you try them. You can grow them in containers if you have a big enough container. Just don't put too many in there, and have some fun with them. And don't forget, you can eat the whole onion. You can eat the stalk and stuff as well.